Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. We're a podcast about board games where we have opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is brought to you by these great Saskatoon businesses: Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street, Dragon's Den Games on 8th Street, and Breakout Escape Rooms on Faithful Avenue. Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Ian.
And on this episode, we're going to do some thinking, playing, doing board games. And Ryan, we're going to do a collective review. And what are we collectively reviewing?
We are going to collectively review the Isle of Meow Cats.
Oh, man. Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street in Saskatoon. They are the winner of the Joe Shuster Award for Best Comic Book Store in Canada, and they were also nominated in 2016 for the U.S. Eisner Spirit of Comics Retailer Award presented at Comic-Con. Amazing Stories' amazing collection of comic books, board games, puzzles, and collectibles can be found in their store or on their new online website. And we're back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. We're going to go into some bantering, some thinking, playing, doing board games. And who would like to take point? It's up for grabs.
I will.
All right, Ian.
Let's talk about the Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Yay!
Which is a game I just played for the first time last night. So the conjecture is
in full swing.
Right. Is accurate. Yes.
Yes.
Literally speaking.
We played it on BGA because that's how it works. And I don't actually own the game, so I was learning it on BGA. My friend Matt taught us. It's a pretty neat game. I actually quite liked it. It's got we've talked about it before, but it's got that combination of deck building your deck, very similar to Dominion, right? You draw 5 cards. It's got the Dominion DNA. And it also has the board where you're working your way up into different spots, which get you resources. But there's different levels of spots you can take, which I thought was pretty neat as well. And for the higher level spots, of course, it takes a lot more resources even just to go there. Mm-hmm. And then when you get there, you got to fight a giant spider or a leopard or something along those lines. And
the spirit protector or something like that. Yeah.
Right. And then on the same side, you're also working your way up the, I don't know, what do they call it? The exploration track or
exploration or temple track or
because that's that track or something. And that ends up being pretty important, especially at the end of the game, because you can get lots of big points that way. And you also get a lot of bonuses through the game. Well,
with those two tokens, the explorer and the documenter or something like that, or the journalist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one's always got to follow the other. Right? Yeah. So you're trying to move both of them up as evenly as you can. But
the first one is the one that gives you the big points. And I think the journalist documenter coming up, in behind kind of thing, gets you some points, but I think it gets you the really cool flipping your assistant stuff. Yeah.
The assistants I quite like to get 2 of them. I don't know if you can switch them out or not. I didn't really look that closely into the rules. If you get, I don't think so. I think
there's some cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you can upgrade them and then they work even better for you. But you flip them, and they're basically a free bonus you get when you use them. But then there's certain things to the game you can flip them back and then use them again, and then flip them back and use them again. That's what I really like about this game is there's a whole bunch of ways that you can tap into everything that you've already done, right? And you can reset things again and
flipping switches.
Yeah. There's lots you can do and lots going on in it. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like, you end up getting all these resources and then you're just spending those resources. And then it's just always like, oh, I just wish I had just that one more and I could just do that one more thing on my turn.
Right. And so you're desperately looking to see how you can get that one more, right? Is there any way you can, and sometimes it's like a system of 4 different things you have to do to get that one resource that you don't
And then
have.
all of a sudden you go, oh, I have an idol. I have an idol that I can use to get this. And then all of a sudden your brain goes into that. This switch flips that one and this one flips that one. And
it reminded me a lot of Lagrange in that sense, right? Where
with your
if you are
non-action ability.
If you're short one little thing, there might be like not so obvious routes to get there, right? We'll talk about the originality of the game a little bit later, but because I don't know that there's anything overly new that it does. I think it just kind of throws together a whole bunch of stuff that we've already seen before.
Yeah.
But the theme...
I agree. I agree with that. It's what got people excited about it when they started playing. What I feel like when they started playing it was that familiarity with the mechanics, and then with this Indiana Jones exploration type of theme painted onto it, kind of really started drawing people. The production the actual physical copy of the game is a stellar.
Oh yeah,
is a stellar production.
Big chunky cardboard. Yeah. Nothing flimsy about that. Absolutely. Cool. Yeah. Right on.
Lost Ruins of Arnak. Check it out. It's on BGA beta. It's a beta test. So if you are a premium member, go there and check it out.
Cool.
Okay. Well, you have to be premium in order to play betas.
I don't know. I just said that. I'm not actually.
Conjecture, man. Right there. I'll follow suit. I had wanted to talk about this again, and as I said before we started recording, out of nowhere, my wife said, "Hey, do you want to play Jaipur?" And because my wife's first hobby is reading, when she suggests that we play a game, even if I'm in the middle of something that interests me, I will stop and I will absolutely play a game. So we played Jaipur. An oldie classic, 2009.
Ryan doesn't even know that there were games back then.
There wasn't any Kickstarter back then.
Oh, you.
Hey, here's something that I don't think so the designer is Sébastien Pochon, and but the artist is Vincent Dutray and Alexander Roche. Yeah. So cool. I love
okay. So is that would probably be the new edition?
That's the new edition. I have the old one, but the new edition, I might have to upgrade my my old GameWorks copy. But this is a 2-player game where you are basically card drafting, some hand management. There's a market of familiar goods and rare goods. You're set collecting, you're pushing your luck one to cash in. So basically what happens is you have a hand of cards, you have a market of 5 cards, and you have the camels, and you have camels, which are kind of, I would say, buffer cards or, filler cards. But the idea is you're drafting these cards into your hand, you're collecting sets, and then above the card market are tokens that represent points. And the common goods have a lot of tokens, but not like maybe the first 2 or 3 have good points and then the rest are ones, right? So the deeper you go into that set of items, the less valuable. Then on the rare sides, you have the gold and you have the sterling and the gems, and there's a limited amount of those, but they're very expensive. So you kind of bounce around with what you're going to collect and now once you get these cards, you have a maximum hand of 7, which forces you to cash in, and that's when the crazy happens. Because when you cash in, so you can cash in a set of 2 if you want, but once you hit a set of 3, then you get a little bonus token that has, between a range of certain numbers, has a bonus victory points. So, man, here's the thing: it's best 2 out of 3. I could use a chisel and put it in stone. My wife wins the first one. I win the second one. She wins the third one. I walk away humiliated. No, but I dig this game so much for the fact that the simplicity of it is straightforward, but the depth of how and when to push that, when do I cash? I still can't figure it out. She owns me. Like there's times where it's like, I got 83 and I look up, I got 57.
All too familiar. Yeah, this is a favorite of ours too. And I'm the opposite way. I will always win the first one, and then Jen always wins the next two.
Bang bang.
Always. And you're right. When do I cash in for the chips? Do I try to collect that one extra one? So now that I have a set of 4 or a set of 5, or do I just start chiseling away and cashing in just like sets of 3?
And here's what I've been noticing. I don't know. You could probably help me out with this. You have a max hand of 7. And the cool thing with the camels is camels will come out in the market. And when you, on your turn, you have options. You either take one card from the market and then it gets refilled from the draw pile, or you can take as many as you want, as long as you replace the same amount back into the market. You can use cards from your hand, or you can use camels. That's where these camels come in. Yeah. But here's the trick. When the camels are in the market, you have to take all of the camels. So sometimes there'll be 4, and in 5 market stalls, that's a fresh batch of cards out. You don't want gold cards to come out so that the other person can look at you and go, thank you, I'm trading in all this leather for all these gold and sterling, right? It's just, it's one of those paper, death by 1,000 paper cuts. And that balance of looking at your opponent going, you have 7 cards. You have to eat. Like there's like your options are against the wall. I can now take it easy on my options. It's just the depth of it freaks me out sometimes.
Yeah, and they give you a little bit of a compensation that if you have the most camels, around you get like a bonus, like 5 points or something.
I always go with the camel strategy. I haven't played this often, and I haven't played it in a long time, and I don't even actually remember what the camel strategy is. But I always go with the camel strategy.
Yeah.
If the game has camels, you always go with the camel strategy.
Yeah. But that's Jaipur. It's one of these small box games that are, you pick it up for $25.
It's heavily regarded as one of the best 2-player games out on the market.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's up there in the conversations with Targi and 7 Wonders Duel and stuff like that. Like it's up there. Even for
tic-tac-toe.
Has Targi been mentioned on this podcast before? I'm not too sure.
I can't go an episode without mentioning Targi.
That Jaipur. Ryan, you got cleanup.
Sure. So a game that we've been playing a lot of lately, even though it takes forever to set up because it's got a bazillion components, is Praga Caput Regni. And I think I said that right.
Caput.
So I'm just going to refer to it as just Praga from now on instead of Praga Caput Regni.
I'll say it in the background.
Caput Regni.
Yeah. So this is by Vladimir Sushi or Suki. I can't remember exactly.
I think, the second way.
Yeah. And it's a Rio Grande's production here in North America, or Delicious Games in Europe. And this is like Vladimir Suki is one of those designers that I pay attention to lately. Like I know if a Stefan Feld game comes out, I'm going to love it.
Yeah. Or
if a Jamie Stegmaier game is going to come out, I know I'm going to really enjoy it. Or a Simone Luciani game. Vladimir Suki is coming out, is becoming one of those designers for me. And Praga Caput Regni is not an outlier here. This is a fantastic game. I'm not going to go into all the details on how to play it because it's a very gigantic, very complex game with a lot of interconnected pieces. But at the center of it, it's an action selection, and it's kind of a really, really cool rondel type of thing. There's this, he calls it an action crane, but it essentially is just this circular piece at the top of the board
with the double hex tiles, right?
Yeah, and these hex tiles, these double hex tiles are placed in, and you're going to select one of those double hex tiles and take one of the actions on them. And then at the end of your turn, you're going to rotate the crane and then place your tile back at the top of it. So eventually, tiles that have not been selected are going to get pushed further and further along, and then they become more lucrative. They actually can grant you bonus points and stuff like that. if they get ignored long enough. And yeah, essentially what you're going to do is you're going to take one of the actions. There's 6 acts. There's 6 different actions in the game, and they're actually not that complicated of actions. It's just like, hey, I'm going to place a tile down on the board, or I'm going to place a tile into my player area, or I'm going to produce gold, or I'm going to produce stone. Gold and stone are the 2 main resources in the game, which is actually kind of nice in a big complex game like this. There's only 2 resources to manage. And yeah, building wall segments is going to obviously cost a lot of stone. Building buildings is going to cost a lot of gold. And everything in this game is just one of those, hey, I do this, and so now I'm going to combo that with my technology and this bonus that I get over here, and those things are going to bonus and combo into those different things. Fiddly beyond belief. Like, I don't know how many times Jen and I will play this game and we're like, did I take that bonus? I don't think I took that bonus, but did I take the bonus on top of the bonus? Oh my gosh. And I think I only scored 2 out of the 4 bonus points from my turn or something.
Not a game to drink wine with.
Yeah, you want probably a clear conscience going into this one, because you're going to, and believe me, you're going to forget bonus points and bonus actions and bonuses,
but
left, right, and center on this one.
Good. Is it good?
Oh, it's a very delicious puzzle. Like, I like the title of the company from Europe, Delicious Games, because they're also the ones that put out Underwater Cities. And these games that make, like I just say, delicious decisions. The puzzle that you have to try to solve, like, am I going to build heavy walls this game? Or am I going to go heavy in building into the market this game? And which one of the 2... Again, like the production quality on this one, if you've pulled up pictures of it, it's fantastic. It's got these 3D staircase tracks that you can progress. Like you can physically track your thing, and it goes up the tracks physically. And there's like a little wooden bridge that you have to build. It's the Charles University Bridge.
Charles Bridge, yeah.
And
yeah, the thematicness is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's like a 3-dimensional castle.
Yeah,
the bridge is a little bit 3D. That's cool.
This is one of those ones you're not going to understand what you are doing in probably your first 2 or 3 plays. You're going to do what Norm likes to do, which is push buttons and pull levers and just see what happens. And it's after those first couple plays you're actually going to realize what actions kind of connect with what scoring opportunities. And then after I say it was about our 4th or 5th game that we've actually played this, where we're actually like, okay, right from the get-go, I had a strategy in mind that I wanted to try. Jen had a strategy in her mind that she wanted to try.
Cool.
And we went at it, and 16 actions later, that's all you get is 16 actions in this whole big complex game.
Wow.
And she only won by like 3 points.
Nice.
So we were 2 completely different strategies. Yeah. Both were very competitive with one another. I'm pretty sure that I forgot to take 4 points somewhere along.
Of course.
Oh yeah, the fish was this big.
Exactly. So, if you have a chance, I believe the North American version by Rio Grande Games actually comes with like those wingspan wooden eggs, because there's a resource that's called with eggs, because there's some lore behind the way that the Charles Bridge was created, with using egg yolks and eggshells to like I don't know whatever brick and mortar the bridge together. There's like a little excerpt in the rule book where they said that this is an actual myth. This is actual lore. And that's why we have eggs as a resource when you go down this particular pathway.
Some Mason's myth.
So it's like, and apparently if you take tourism of Prague, that they mention this, that there are eggs in the in the bridge that made it help stick together. So so the North American version you get is wooden eggs, like 3D, but the version that I got from Europe only comes with cardboard chits for the eggs. But I'm
thinking the egg things, like if it works with meatloaf, it should work with stones too, right? so
Praga Caput Regni
Caput
is a high recommendation, especially if you love crunchy Euros with lots of things going on. It's a physically intimidating game to look at, but once you actually start playing it, you're like, oh, this is actually not actually that bad. There's only just the 6 actions. It's just that what bleeds into what.
Oh yeah,
is the hard thing to figure out. But it's got to be in my top. If I had to revisit, I think I have to revisit my top games of 2020. I have to re-edit this thing because I'm starting to. Too late.
It's too late.
Okay.
There's no going back.
Okay.
That ship has sailed, man.
Honorable mention of a top game of 2020. Praga, Caput, Regni by Vladimir Suhi.
This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Dragon's Den Games, located in the Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon. Swing by Dragon's Den Games and let Darren, Al, and the awesome staff help you out in search for great board games, role-playing games, miniature systems, and all of the related accessories. Be a part of their gaming communities that have scheduled events in their great gaming area. Dragon's Den Games, Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon.
And we are back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. We're going into the reviews. Ryan?
Reviews.
Okay, so we haven't done this in either a long time or we haven't done this, but we're going to collectively review a game because it was sent to us by the publisher, I believe. Ryan?
Yep.
Yeah. And this game, I'll guide us through the segments, and as we always start with our reviews, we start with the game details. So I'm going to hand that off to Ryan. Game details.
Sure. So the history of this was that there was a thread coming out on Twitter where it was asking lesser known podcasts and content creators to kind of put their names forward on these kind of like a review list or a list where these us lesser known people, because we only have like 1 or 2 listeners that actually listen to our show, opportunities to get some like review games or produce some content for some of these other companies. And one of the ones that actually got back to us was the City of Games. Yeah, that's it. Publisher is the City of Games, which is organized by Frank West. And he's the designer of this game from 2019. That's the Isle of Cats. And it was a very successful Kickstarter game back in 2019. I believe it earned over 500,000 British pounds was what the stat that I looked up here. So
Cool.
Isle of Cats, 2019 release. Designer is Frank West. He's also the owner guy of the City of Games.
All right.
And it was artist. I believe he was also the artist on this game too. Yes.
Yeah.
Frank West and Drago Lisko was one of the credited artists.
Must have definitely owned cats because have a life experience of owning cats, and he's got the postures down pat. Cool. Well, we're on to the second part that we do, the overview and the nuts and bolts, and I'll take care of the overview, and as I always like to do a very dramatic read through of the description.
I love this story. I read this. I love this story.
The Isle of Cats is a competitive medium weight card drafting polyomino cat placement board game for 1 to 4 players, 6 with expansions. In the game, you are a citizen of Squall's End on a rescue mission to the Isle of Cats and must rescue as many cats as possible before the evil Lord Vesh arrives. Each cat is represented by a unique tile and belongs to a family. You must find a way to make them all fit on your boat while keeping families together. You will also need to manage resources as you explore the island by drafting cards, rescue cats, find treasures, befriend Oshaks, study ancient lessons. I don't think I can take that vocal. Each lesson you collect gives you another personal way of sorting points, and 38 unique lessons are available. Complete lessons fill your boat and keep cat families together to score points, and players with the most points after 5 rounds wins. So that is the overview description. I'm going to pass this off to Ian for some game. How should I put this? The nuts and bolts of this game.
Sounds good. The goal of Isle of Cats is to fill the spaces on your boat with cats. That's what you're trying to do.
Meow.
This is going to be a long review, Ryan.
We each take turns heckling each other's parts. Meow. Meow.
There is a score pad's worth of different ways to score points in this. The first big one is that keeping, like Norm mentioned, the families of cats. So you want to keep the colors of cats together as much as you can. The more you get to do that, the more points you score. There are lessons. I don't know why they're called lessons, but there's lessons, and there's both groups and individual. And basically these are different ways, cards that come up that you play that are different ways that you can score throughout the game. You have ones that will work only for you. You have ones that will work for everybody. So for example, you might get a card that allows you to get points based on how many rats you have left in your boat, where normally you would lose the points, things like that. And that brings me to my next point. You're trying to not lose points. And you lose points when you don't eat the rats. So if the cats don't cover over the rats, and if you don't, the big one is the rooms. So if you don't fill a room, if you have even one empty little spot in a room, you're going to lose 5 points for that room. On your turn, you are getting fish. So you get the same amount of fish, which is kind of interesting, actually, that everybody gets exactly the same amount of income at the beginning of every round, because that's what fish is. Basically, it's your income. You're going to do a little card drafting. So you start with 7 cards, you take 2, you pass them on, and you keep going until you've got your set hand of 7 cards. You're going to take these cards and you're going to do various things with them, such as actually try to go and rescue cats. There's going to be, actually, there's not a set number. It depends on how many players, but there's a certain number of cats available each round, which are basically these Tetris-shaped tiles that you pull out of the bag, and they have cats on them. There you go. There's 2 different prices. So half of the cats go in the cheaper price and half of the cats go in the larger price. I guess just to make one group more desirable than the other because they're cheaper.
Yeah. Well, and also I think there's some cards too that allow you to, like, I'm going to move this one to the other place and vice versa. So there's some market manipulation, I guess.
And then there's some confusing rule about baskets.
What's confusing about it?
I don't understand what you need them for.
Okay, so I'll take a stab at the basket thing.
Good, thank you.
Because it wasn't about till our second or third play that I think we really understood what the baskets were. So every player has a tile that has a basket on it, and what you need baskets for is you need those to go and rescue the cats. I'm assuming that I imagine myself running onto the island, stuffing a cat in a basket, and running back to the boat.
And being a cat owner, here's the thing. You put a basket or a box anywhere on the floor and you look away and you look back, there'll be a cat sitting in it. So I think to me, that's the funniest joke from a cat owner going, well, of course you use a basket. You just set it down. It'd be like stand back, like fishing. There you go. There's a cat. Thank you.
So everybody gets 1. So you can rescue at minimum 1 cat per round. But then certain cards have pictures of baskets on them. Some are full baskets and some of them are kind of like half destroyed baskets. And you can collect these cards if you have a full basket or 2 half baskets, will allow you to rescue more cats on your turn. Hopefully.
Right. But what I don't understand is that card is the basket card on the card that you would use to rescue the cat. Can you use that card for both purposes?
Yeah, you use it for,
Okay. So we were playing it right then.
Okay. Yeah. Because
nothing in the rules made that clear though. So I was just assuming that was how it played.
Yeah, because there's also on some of these basket cards, I believe they call them rescue cards. There's also going to be the boot symbol, which allows you to manipulate, or at least the boot symbol allows you to manipulate the turn order, and then the baskets allow you to grab cats. And then once those baskets are used, you discard the card. You don't keep that basket unless if a card says you earn a permanent basket, which you just grab another tile to say that, hey, now I can rescue 2 cats per turn now from now on.
And my take all the time, speaking of the boots thing, my take all the time is if a game has a situation where the turn order is kind of competitive, then you better pay attention to the turn order, because in this case, you can just like take tiles away from somebody who's, you could see someone going, if you get this, then you've now got 5 of the same family, and you're into, like good set collecting. The more you have, the bigger the.
Now you're playing this game as a strategy game instead of a nice fun and family game. Now we're getting into the cat fights, meow.
Yeah.
Anyway, the baskets. I don't know how necessary they are personally. Anyway, the next thing you do,
you need to rescue lots of cats to fill up your boat.
Yeah,
that's why you need the baskets.
You need the baskets to bring the cats onto the boat.
Yeah, I understand that, but what?
It's a joke. It's because you don't use, you don't use it.
Okay, moving on, meow.
Anyway, there's something about treasures, and then that's it. 5 rounds, and then that's the game. The treasures, I think, are just kind of an addendum. They're just other extra ways you get points, and
fill up spaces on your boat.
That's right. That's the big thing is they
the awkward
take up
spaces.
Okay, so moving on to the favorite part, the opinions, and we always like to go from the outside of the box in. So Ryan, why don't you start us off?
Okay, I know why he did this, but this box is way too large for what it's supposed to be.
Okay, explain the inside of the box.
That's because when I open up the box, I was like, wow, there is a lot of wasted space inside this box. But then when I read the lid of the box and there's a target on it, says, whatever, place cat here. Now I got the joke, because there's always these Board Game Geek users out there on Twitter and Facebook and whatnot, taking pictures of cats that crawl inside box lids or cats that climb inside game boxes.
And I can attest, I have 2 cats and they took turns going in the lid. The other one had to go out and get a snack. The other one came in and sat there.
So this is actually a legitimate thing. Like, this is not people posing their cats inside of game boxes.
It's behavioral science, man.
So I'm looking at a very meta picture on Board Game Geek right now of this, what you're talking about, the inside lid of Isle of Cats, and then somebody put a copy of Calico in it.
That's kind of funny.
A picture of a sleeping cat.
So anyways, box size aside, like, this is not your standard game box. It is quite a little bit larger, just because of that nice inside joke of pet owners and whatnot. As a non-pet owner, I would be a little peeved that I would have this gigantic box and now I have to put on my shelf that's not going to fit with other boxes, but I can get past that.
Because real estate. Yeah.
Cool. The art in this game is actually really quite cute and really quite family friendly. There are, oh my gosh, how many different pieces of art on these tiles of all the cats and the different poses and the different types of cats that are in there. Very well done. The polyomino tiles themselves, nice thick cardboard. I'm the one who originally got the game, so I did the punching out, and they all punched out super smooth. There was a lot to punch out, but at least they give,
vibrant colors.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was appreciating. And now I don't know if there's like the colorblind variation, because I don't have any of that, but I did notice that there was very vibrant colors. And to compensate for that, I believe all the tail sets were different to allow those people to differentiate visually.
Yeah, like the blue cats all had a very similar feature, and the red cat all had a very similar, and they have names. I don't have them in front of me, but all the different families had different names to them. We can come back to that.
I'll see if I could track that for you.
There's a large drawstring bag that you put all of the tiles into. That's what you're going to be drawing the tiles out of for every round. That's a very nice addition because it's supposed to be random.
It takes up 50% of the box.
Right. I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. But once I started putting tiles into the bag, I'm like, oh, okay, I understand now.
Practical.
Kind of why that is.
Yeah.
The rule book. I learned this game. I purposely, for the review here, did not watch a how to play video. I wanted to learn this game solely from the rule book, and it's an okay rule book. Like minus some ambiguities, like what we said about the baskets. I quite didn't understand the baskets at the very beginning, but a couple read throughs, and there are some examples. They're not the best examples to try to portray the type of action that's going on, but overall you can get a general sense of what is supposed to happen during a round, and it does a very good job. There's a good kind of reference on what all the different cards, what all the different lessons do, and how they score. Honestly, I think the rule book was a lot bigger than what it could have been. It's very illustrious, very lots of illustrations in it too, and type thing, which is kind of highlighted the art. But nice big font. I think that's why it took up so much real estate. That's why there's so many pages to the rule book, is that they used a nice sized font. You're not squinting your eyes to read it.
Yeah. Part of me was thinking with the rule book that I was always considering the target market of this game, and this is going to be wanting of like the family target market, right? Like, so I was thinking, as far as the rule book goes, it had that sense of let us guide you through calmly and not crowd anything out. I think the pendulum swung more to that adaptability to entry people, not being intimidated by an overloaded page kind of thing. So, yes,
this one is definitely marketed towards as a family game audience, not your super strategic gamer, but everything about this game lids itself that it's going to be a family styled game,
kind of middleweighty. Yeah. Cool.
I tend not to notice the rule books unless they're bad. It's like editing in a movie. You don't notice it unless it's awful. That's kind of how rule books are.
Why does that guy's glass of milk keep going up and down and up and down? So you had no problems with the rule book, Ian?
No, just that baskets I didn't understand, and I couldn't seem to figure out how exactly I use them up. But so we just went with our best guess that we use them the same way we use them just to get the cats.
Apparently, you've never gone cat hunting before.
This episode is proudly supported by the amazing team at Breakout Escape and Board Game Lounge right here in Saskatoon. Using industry-leading technology, Breakout Escape's escape rooms are all 100% uniquely designed by the team, ensuring their patrons have maximum fun while staying safe. As well, they are a fully licensed board game lounge with over 400 titles to select from to ensure fun for every gamer, new and experienced. Be sure to check them out at breakoutsask.com. At Breakout Escapes and Game Lounge, they believe that life is more fun when you play games.
Why? But no, production quality in this game is excellent, and we got a retailed version of the game. We didn't get the Kickstarter.
Yeah,
apparently there's a Kickstarter deluxe. The other thing that I didn't mention was like the little wooden meeple cat eeples. Which are really cute, and I didn't understand what they were for, other than I was like, oh, I pick a color. Oh wait, I only pick one color to represent my turn order, and then the other one is if I actually play one of those Oshak cats and I have to give him a color. Oh, I don't get all of the green cats and Jen didn't get all of the red cats or something like that.
It was like rule identifiers and bonus point identifiers.
Yeah. So then
but they were cute. Yeah.
Oh, they're very cute. That was one thing that I didn't understand what they were all for at the very beginning. And then I'm like, oh, okay. And then I guess the Kickstarter one would have had, I think they were screen printed. They actually had like art.
Oh, cool.
Screen printed onto the cats, but no, they're fun. They're fun and cute.
Yeah, I had no complaints at all about any of the components. I mean, like you said, the polyomino tiles were nice and chunky because, I mean, in the bag and you're mixing it up, those things they're going to take a bit of a beating, so they gotta last. And I think these
Might
are
get stuck in the corners.
yeah,
You never know.
yeah.
Worst if they get stuck in the corners, because I really want that. I really want that one tile, Ian. And why is it stuck in the corner?
Yeah, that's that ticket stuck to the outside of the see-through bin as you're driving you nuts. Cool. Let's move on to game system, game style. Who wants to talk? You know what? I'm going to step in first with the game system, game style, because I think I'm the only one that played it solo. I think both you guys played it two-player. Yeah. So the solo, as far as the solo goes, and my experience with a lot of these different games, and their methods of using a solo bot or solo AI or card-driven system, this one was really cool because speaking of the 5 different color cats, that has a good synchronicity with the rounds, because now in one of the rows you flip over a cat color, and how the AI works is that it uses your boat that you're filling up as its own boat to score too. So how this works really cleverly is let's say I flip over a green cat in the first round. Well, any green cats on my boat count for 5 points for the AI. And each round as it goes on, I flip a color, and descending order, that's the value of these cats. So as a solo player, right away I'm thinking, I have to, I mean, I still want to fill up the boat, but I don't want to fill up the boat with the heavy costing cats. I should wait a little bit. I should stack some resources, get some good of these public lessons and private lesson cards out. So there was an interesting, clever system that kept me as a gamer connected to the ongoing variable strategy of these cards coming out. And again, you could push your, from easy to hard, depending on how many of these lessons that the AI gets to trigger in their own random solo decks. So I was impressed on that game system style and the entire way that you used initiative order, as I mentioned before. How important that is too, because the AI would steal stuff left, right, and center from you. And it's like the AI had this sense of what I wanted, and it got me mad. So, but that being said, yeah, I quite enjoyed how they implemented the solo, because sometimes the solo stuff just kind of bores you. But this one was wicked variable, and I like that because it changed the puzzle all the time, kept it dynamic. That being said, you guys did the 2-player. So what do you guys think on the two-player side?
So one of the main mechanisms in this game is the card draft. So in 2 players, you're going to get a hand of, no, correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, is it 7 cards?
Yeah.
You get a hand of 7 cards. And what you'll do is you'll draft 2 of them. Your opponent will draft 2 of them, and then you pass, draft two, and then you get stuck with the last one. So then eventually you'll have a hand of 7 cards. The drafting is really quite neat. It's that way of trying to mitigate the randomness of the card. We didn't mention that there was what you said, 34 different lesson cards in this game, but that's a big old stack of cards.
Yeah, that's a big stack.
Yeah, it is.
It's a huge.
It was hard to shuffle.
And so one of my things always with these is that I've drafted some lesson cards. I'm like, okay, this is obviously the way that I'm going to have to score that. I'm going to pick some lesson cards. This is going to be the way that I'm going to try to score points to this game. And so maybe my lesson was, I'm going to take this one. It says get 5 red cats onto my boat.
Well, one thing, but sorry for interjecting there. Before we get to the playing cards, we got to pay for the cards with the fish, don't we?
Right.
Yeah. All cards have a cost. I'm going to get to the costs later.
Yeah.
But my big thing here is that when I do want to select a goal card and say it's going to have 5 red cats, Well, now I'm reliant that red cats are going to become available into the markets, which that's a big bag of tiles, and maybe 5 red cats don't even come out for the entire game.
Yeah.
For that. But yes, we have to pay for everything. You get that 20 fish at the very beginning of the round, and all the cards are going to cost between like 0 to maybe some of them are like 5 or 6 fish. The cats that you're going to lure, you're going to have to lure them with some fish. So some cost, I'm already forgetting what the costs are. Some cost like 4 fish, and the other ones cost like 6 fish or something like that. And so you have to kind of manage that kind of resource, but I didn't find it was too terribly stressful to manage.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to keep all 7 of my cards in my hand. I'm not going to have to pay for all 7 cards in my hand at any given time. So I'm kind of picking and choosing which ones I want. I'm a big guy on this rant. On my big sticking point for the review is that I wasn't a fan of the randomness of the cards, even though they tried to mitigate that with the draft.
Yeah.
I'm drafting lessons, and I may not get opportunities to fulfill those particular lessons.
Yeah. I mean, I get that.
They just might not just come up, or like the proper tiles just might not come up. So I'm maybe having to pay for I paid for this one card at the very beginning, and now it's kind of like a wasted card in my hand now.
But it doesn't cost you negative points in the end, though, does it?
No, but I could have spent that fish that I spent on that card.
I see what you're going.
I could have spent that on another cat.
Yeah,
or I could have
but you're still able to pivot. If like you said, it's like, it's not coming out. I got to dump that, and I got to go on to a different plan.
Yeah, and I might not even get the card that allows me to dump my old lesson cards, because there are some cards that allow you to ditch them to get some resources or something.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I'm talking a little bit too much here. I'll let Ian take over for a little bit.
Okay, I thought the game played fairly smoothly. Okay, here we go. So this is, I think, indicative of a larger problem for me. It just wasn't different enough to other games.
As far as thematic or mechanical?
I'll get to theme later.
Okay.
As far as mechanics, because actually I just got back from, just before I jumped onto the podcast with you guys, I played Patchwork, which is kind of the progenitor of this whole series of polyomino games, right? And Patchwork is kind of like the distilled version of it. Like that's all that it is, basically. And really appreciate that. I just played the 24 campaign of My City, which has a whole bunch of neat challenges about how you want to put the tiles out and how you want to put the different colors of buildings together. And I realized that actually came out, probably was designed at the same time as this game. But then there's also games like Barren Park, which has a neat idea of wherever you put your tiles, if you whatever you cover up triggers what you can do next, which I kind of like.
Okay.
But I just feel like there's a lack of originality in games. And I think it's just because there's so many of games.
Yeah.
There's so many games now. There's no way you can have every game be unique. And it's just not realistic.
It's hard to nail a uniqueness down when there's such a volume.
Right. But the card drafting is something they threw in, and we did a whole episode on it. And there are some games where it's a huge feature of it. Like Seven Wonders and Sushi Go come to mind. This one is just kind of there to, like Ryan said, mitigate the randomness a little bit. That's really its purpose. But it doesn't feel like it has to be there.
In this game, I think the drafting has to be there, because if I'm just drawing 7 cards off the top of the deck, that's even worse for me.
I suppose you're right.
Yeah.
Because what I mean is it's not like a selling feature of the game.
No.
Or make or break. Yeah.
Right. I do like these games with the polyominoes, and you're trying to, where you put it, you have a purpose for it, right? And this one you definitely do. You've got the rat tiles you want to cover up, you've got the rooms that you want to fill, and so there's always an interesting challenge there. And then you're also trying to keep different types of cats together. So
and the treasures. I don't think I think Ryan, you might have mentioned the treasures, which are kind of filler pieces.
Right, the filler piece treasures. Yeah. And so you kind of wonder if you can get those and how they'll help you. And I like that. But it's not new. This is not a new game system. It's just kind of throwing all the old things together.
Right.
Which I think is fine. That's what most games do now. I'm just getting a little burnt out on it.
Yeah, but now one thing I like about the poly. Now I did a segment on the What You've Been Playing Wednesday podcast where I mentioned when I was playing Isle of Cats and I did a little math lesson about polyominoes, and what I liked about this one is that it goes into the hexomino, the 5 square shapes, which really opens up the number of different shapes and unique shapes that you can possibly have. Because there's I believe what the number is. I believe that there is 35 different hexominoes, because these ones you can flip.
Yeah,
they don't have to have the one orientation. You can flip these. So there's 35 different. That's huge when you start saying that there's 5 different cats, and there's 30. Maybe there's 35. Maybe they're all different and
breaking out the math.
But I really enjoyed that. If you're going to have that many different tiles in the game, because lots of these polyomino games stick with the familiars, the 4 block and the 5 block shapes, and this one actually started introducing the 6 block shapes, which really you don't see that one very often. So that's actually kind of like maybe one of the unique things.
Well,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, see, I don't perceive it from that math point of view, but I perceive it from that point of view with, like you said, with that extra polyomino shape, that it completely changes your approach of how you're going to fill up that puzzle. Yeah,
because they're not standard shapes. They're really hard to kind of visualize and piece together, which is really kind of neat, because I will lose lots of negative points because I can't fill rooms because I have that one extra square tucked away in the corner.
That ends up getting pretty tough, actually.
That little eye twitch. I need a treasure.
And then you get to the point where you're like, oh, that room's just got to be abandoned altogether. I'm not even going to attempt that one down there.
I need to find a lesson card that mitigates that penalty. Yeah.
Which thanks, Norm, for bringing that up, because that is a key feature if you want to play this as a strategy game, is that you need to draft lessons to know I'm going to lose probably 15 points at the end of this game. I need to mitigate that.
I need to hedge it. Yeah.
I need to mitigate that one. Like a powerful card that I found was the one that grants points for having rats still exposed on your board, which I thought was like, wow, okay. So I don't even have to, if I draft that, I don't have to worry about rats because I'm going to score points for them rather than lose points.
Yeah, my wife had that card.
It's really
it's just one of the many ways that she destroyed me.
Okay, so we kind of tap danced around it, but speaking of unique mechanisms, and Ian, you suggested that there's nothing, revolutionary.
No, but Ryan does make a good point about
the
extra. What would you call it, spot or whatever?
Yeah.
Because you don't really think how much adding one more brick or block or whatever to a puzzle, but it does enhance the variability for sure.
Yeah, so, because there's only here's the math part. There's only 12 different 5 block shapes, and then you increase that there's 35 different 6 block shapes.
Yeah.
That's a big jump just by adding the extra square.
Well, that's pretty unique. I mean, because now they're exploring. It's like now they're going, okay, how far can we push it till we break it, which is kind of cool.
Well, that leads me to I have a game design in the back of my mind that uses 7 blocks, which is there's 100, but there's 100. There's 109 different configurations for a 7 block.
I'm reminded of Gillette commercials right now. It's like, you thought that 3 blades on your razor was good. We have 4.
This year we got, you thought 4 was a lot. This year we got 5. Yeah. Monster truck.
I'm going to jump aboard what Ian was saying too, that this one didn't feel me. Now, if this was my first tile laying game, of this polyomino things, I think I would be pretty impressed with the design.
Yeah.
We're just kind of a little jaded that we discovered this game a little bit later. Like I do. Like I play Patchwork, I play Baron Park, I play Feast for Odin, and I've got all these other polyomino type of games.
We have a lot of comparatives. Yeah.
Right. And so then this one comes along, and we're comparing it to that one rather than comparing those ones to this one.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of understand that's where our minds are coming from.
But I think it's also a comment on the state of games right now. Because even we talked about Lost Ruins of Arnak earlier. That's kind of the same thing, right? Like we've seen everything in there before. It's just, we're just doing it a little bit differently now.
Yeah. Cool. So does this, as far as the game, does it all connect with you guys? And I'll start this off. Considering we mentioned what target market it's looking at, what it's trying to be, I think it works kind of cool. And I love being a cat owner. I love all of the inside jokes that like the baskets. Well, of course you would carry a cat in a basket if you're rescuing it. Come on, cat in a basket on a doorstep. So I even with the game system, I think it's fun. It's clever. And the variability, like Ryan had mentioned, just from the math side, the variability makes it a game you can keep exploring as a family. So I think this works great.
Oh yeah, no, you're not going to see, well, especially in our 2-player games. I don't know what it's like at the 3 or 4 player, but you definitely don't see all of the cards. You're still left with a massive stack at the very end. So the variability in the way the cards come out is quite high. It's also a detriment to it that you might not, maybe your first few rounds are just basket and what are those? There's some other cards that come out and there's not very many lessons.
Yeah.
Then all the lessons come out at the very end. That's kind of like the all the tiles are going to come out in different orders every game. Like the variability of this game is very high. Do I feel like, now here's an interesting thing of do I feel like I'm this guy going out and rescuing cats and bring them onto the board because there's this bad guy apparently that's going to come and take the cats and around? Like we've talked about, we've danced around this thing about, I believe we've started using the term immersion. That's kind of seems to be the buzzword in the board game industry. And now, like, I don't feel immersed, but what I am engaged in is the puzzle. Mm-hmm. And that when you introduce polyominoes into a game, that's essentially what you're trying to invoke into the person, that you're trying to solve a puzzle in order to score all these victory points and whatnot. And this game does do that pretty well in trying to solve the puzzle. How am I going to mitigate the negative points? What goals am I going to try to draft? So now I got to try to focus on completing those goals. So
it comes together as a puzzle for you.
As a puzzle, this game is outstanding. As a cat rescuer, I just don't feel it.
Ian.
I personally am not a big fan of the theme, but that's sort of a personal preference. And it's not the cats necessarily, it's the fantasy element that I'm not actually a big fan of. Because there's cats with like antlers and cats with vines growing out. Like, they're not just cats, they're weirdo, fantastical cats. And I didn't understand why they were, right? But why aren't they just cats that you're filling your living room with and they're crawling all over your coffee tables and your couch backs and like your ship could easily...
I'll play the game with the boat rather than the game with my living room.
Okay.
All right.
I guess so. I just yeah. But that's just a personal preference. I'm just
I don't know.
I like when a game is about one thing as opposed to two things. And this is like about two things. It's about cats and it's about some weird fantasy island that are meshed together, which is fine for, lots of people would think that's cool. But.
Cool. So on to conclusions. I'm going to conclude from the 5 solo games I've played. And like Ryan had mentioned, that I didn't even go through the whole deck doing 5 solo games, that for what it is and what it's trying to do, like I had said before, I think it does a good job at entertaining kind of entry level gamers, new gamers, not hardcore, heavy kind of gamers, but this does a good job at what it's setting out to do, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it. I mean, if you're a cat fan, obviously this is one that you should try out just because of the theme, and you get hooked with the puzzle. So as far as we go with our shelves, to me, for my own collection, I wouldn't put it on the top shelf. If my family were to play it more and it would bring us to the table a lot more, it would be one of my regular plays on the middle shelf. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Passing it off, Ryan.
I'll take a stab. So as a strategy gamer, the randomness of the cards bugs me, but I can get past that because I don't think a strategy gamer like myself was the target audience for this game.
Yeah.
Me being bugged by I draft a lesson and now I am never going to see those cards or never see those tiles. That bugs me as a gamer, but that's not going to bug everybody. Mm-hmm. As a gamer. Now, if you're the guy that, that kind of randomness bugs you, this isn't a game for you. But for like you said, this is an entry level family weight type of game. The puzzle of it is top notch. Like it ranks right above there with all those other polyomino type of games like Patchwork and Barren Park, like we've already talked about. And just me discovering this game so late, in comparison to those other games, is kind of like a detriment to my review of it, because I'm comparing it to those and I really enjoy those games. Mm-hmm. Now, would there be a spot on my shelf already with me already owning all these other games? If you already own these types of games, there's probably not a spot on the shelf. But if you are discovering this game, this is going to be your first polyomino type of game. Yeah, definitely there's a spot on the shelf. It does a lot of really cool things with that puzzle and everything. So for me personally, this is a bottom shelf game just because I'm comparing it to those other ones. But there is still a fantastic game in here. I just discovered this game too late. Yeah. Cool. Ian.
Yeah, I think that my thoughts would mirror Ryan's pretty well. I don't think it has a place in my collection. I don't feel like it's that unique, but I think that what it does pretty solidly. Yeah. And I do think it would be a pretty good family game, not like young kids, but mm-hmm. A little bit older kids it would work really well with. The theme doesn't work for me, which is why I wouldn't keep it around, because that's just not for me. And I like to have my games have themes that would work for me.
And to me, that makes sense because you're a very dedicated film person, and that's all about theme and story and narrative. And
but that said, despite that, I think that the artwork and the components in general are really solid. It's a top-notch production. So
this is one of those circumstances where Kickstarter was useful I believe in the production
and getting this game out
of getting this game out there. It is not far out of the BGG top 100. Like there is there's a solid fan base for this game. Like Norm and I mentioned, there's a lady at work mentioned when I passed this game off to Norm, she mentioned, "Oh yeah, we have that game. We enjoy that quite a bit." A person I didn't even think would play board games, says that she owns this game. So
identified, and she said that this is so much fun, and every time they have a great experience every time they play. So to wrap up surmise what you guys are saying, considering their market, considering who they're wanting to be interested in play this game, I think they did a great job. Yeah. But
I really feel like the tension would be a lot higher in a higher player count game. There'd be more competitive for that turn order to be able to draft some of the cats.
I'm blaming COVID for that.
Because they had an expansion pack for this that allows you to play with up to 6 people, which is that's a lot.
Yeah.
For this style of game.
And that's where I'm thinking where a lot of that elbow nudging for pieces is going to be interesting too. Right. So yeah, that's an experience that I want to have a crack at as well. So yeah, Isle of Cats. Yeah, it was, I'm trying to find a cat pun here. It was perfect.
Oh, let's just wrap it up. Meow.
Wrap it up. Meow. All right. Well, that being said, thank you for enduring the cat jokes and pretentious. No. Okay.
No.
I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Ian.
And we'll catch you later.
This has been an episode of Cardboard Conjecture, and we are Bridge City Board Gamers. And you can find us on Facebook at Bridge City Board Gamers Saskatoon. You can find us on YouTube, Bridge City Board Gamers. We are also on Twitter at BC Board Gamers. And of course, Board Game Geek Guild number 3039.